Good evening, Jake.
Hi.
Here we are for the first happy hour. Cheers. I've heard you got quite a setup for happy hours.
Yeah, I am. I'm investing in YouTube a little bit more now, so it's not done yet, but we've got a much better camera stand here to accept an incoming camera.
As Kieran noticed, you are up close now.
Yeah, I zoomed in a little bit, just kind of
trying to compete with my focal length. Is what
you want to see this lovely mug, apparently.
Yeah, you did tell me you had to shave earlier, and I guess it's this closer zoom.
Yeah, exactly. And then I've got some lights, so they arrived in the nick of time, Anthony. Like literally, it was 20 minutes ago. I was putting a sign on the gate that was like, if you come, just put the package inside the gate. And he was like, hello. And I was like, yes.
That's awesome.
So I ran upstairs and set them up. It's behind the scenes. You can see a big pile of all my packaging and garbage that I have not cleaned up yet. That's how soon it happened. But yeah, man, this is exciting. I'm really stoked to be here.
It's a whole new era.
It is.
You know?
Yeah.
What are we starting with? We starting with.
So you're listening to the music.
Yeah, you're just digging the music. I know people are digging it. So.
Yeah. So this is happy hour. So we're trying something a little different. We're trying to grow, everybody. We're trying to do more and be better and be bigger. So thank you everyone for showing up today. We're always very curious about how this time slot's going to work, because like for some people it's like perfect. You know, you're wrapping up your day. Maybe you want to have a drink. I know for some others, maybe it's not the best time, but we're gonna see. How it goes.
You can catch it on the VOD.
Yeah,
as they say.
YouTube saves everything. That's the nice part.
They do. Even the bad streams.
Not like Twitch. Yeah. Even the bad streams. Yeah.
We are on new. We did. I don't know if people caught our surprise stream earlier. We're testing out some new stuff. We're on a new infrastructure after last time was not. I would classify it a full-on anomaly. Is what I would classify that last stream.
Yeah.
What was the thing where? What was the high visibility close? What was it? High visibility close call.
Yeah,
I think that's what that stream was, right? Because it didn't go down, and you could hear us the whole time. But
yeah. But we had
so we're good. We're running well. We are doing this every week, right? We should reiterate to everybody: this is a weekly endeavor. Yeah. We are going to be hanging out with you. We're just doing new stuff. We want to be doing a lot more off-nominal into the new year. So we are taking the Thursday right before Christmas off, I believe, per our schedule.
Yeah.
But other than that, we are weekly. We're going to be getting people that are creators in space. We want to talk to people that are making interesting things in space, talk about their projects inside baseball where it makes sense. more time for current events, leaving the main show for fun things like being the NASA dictator.
Yeah,
You know,
that was fun.
That stuff.
Well, and that's always the tough part, right? Because like you would do a show monthly, and then the day after a show, some big news would drop, and we don't touch it for a month because that's the. So then we just don't. We move on to something else by then, and so we missed a lot of stuff, right? So I think I'm really hoping that we're able to like really unpack a lot of random stuff that we wouldn't have had time for before, and have some fun. So
on that topic, we have a web page set up over at offnom.com/happy hour, where you can go and the playlist is linked here, so you can always see the latest happy hour stuff. But at the bottom, there's this form that we built, this fancy web form, where if you have something that you're either working on or if you know of something that would be a good topic for happy hour, that could be, like I said, somebody making something interesting, could just be like a really fun topic that we haven't touched on. Dump it in here. We will throw it in our long list of things, check out whatever you send our way. But this is a good way to collect ideas, because I should mention again, we are weekly, so we need a lot of ideas.
we need stuff to put on the show.
So offnom.com/happy hour is where it's at. You can check out Jake's fancy logo as well. The fancy happy hour logo.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Who made that? Very good. What are you drinking, Anthony?
Well, I have a Trogs, I'll be honest. I've got a Trogs beer.
Hold standby.
Yeah. Well, here was the thing. I was thinking this week, I was like, we are weekly. I need to have some standing army of beer nearby, just at the ready. So I've digging out the Trogs so that I can make way. This is the important part. I'm making way in my fridge for a more luscious supply that can be on demand for the near future. So this is more fridge management than like, what you might expect in the future.
Fridge management.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you working with?
Yeah. I usually drink beer on the main show, and when I thought about weekly, I was like, I don't know if I should drink that much beer. So I thought this would be
count your calories.
I thought it'd be a good opportunity to experiment with some more fancy drinks, because I've always wanted to do that, but I've never had a good excuse, because I hate going out to clubs late at night. I'm just not really into that. So this is my chance. So I have made, I'll see if I can put it up here. This is a mezcalita. So you see that?
What is going on in the glass there?
My wife got me these fancy ice cubes made of metal, and so they don't water down the drink.
Big into reusability.
Cool. Yeah, reusability. So this is orange juice, mezcal from here in Mexico, and a little bit of orange liqueur and lime juice with a spicy chili salt rim. How about that?
It's very fancy.
I'm gonna give it a shot. I've never had this, so.
So this could go horribly wrong.
Oh yeah, that's a cocktail. That's good.
I can tell that you're a programmer now, officially, because the first topic of Off-Nom Happy Hour that you've brought is about time zones.
Yeah. I'm like, this is a problem that needs to be solved. Yeah. We thought, so the kind of building on what you said, we want to make Happy Hour a place where really interesting projects can come and be featured. So not just ones that we are working on, although we will be shameless in our use of this channel to self-promote, but we want to also bring other people on. So, projects is sort of one of the many themes that we hope to do here. So I recently did this thing called Mars Time, and it's a web page that you can go to learn about just timekeeping on Mars, really. And so this has been a little project I've done. I probably spent 3 or 4 months on various parts of this off and on, and it's finally out here now. So I thought maybe we would take the chance to take a look at it.
I really need to ask you though, why did you make this?
Why did I do this? Right?
Yeah.
I honestly can't even remember why.
You don't remember the instigating event?
It may have been, okay, so the one selfish use I have for this is that when I'm recording the Red Planet Review podcast for
this is what I figured,
patrons, I always report on the sol of the mission, right? Okay, welcome. Here's your update on Curiosity. Today is sol 3,200 and whatever. And I had this app that was telling me that, but it didn't have everything on it that I wanted, and I didn't want to pull out my phone and load an app. I wanted to just, because I was like, working on the computer, so I thought I could just bring up a little window to do it. So I think it may have started there. I wanted to build that, and then it just spiraled. That's another way that you can, peg me as a programmer. I succumbed to scope creep, but at least I actually got it out. So.
And you went all in. You made like a JavaScript library. You did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's kind of how. So when I started building it, I realized that I needed to have some meat behind the code. So there's actually a JavaScript library, which we talked about in the main show. I brought that up a couple months ago that I'd put that out, and that's what powers this front end, right? This front end is just like a little portal that uses that. But yeah, so there's the library behind the scenes is in JavaScript, and it's open source. So if any JavaScript developers out there want to have fun, it's a node package. You can absolutely use this and do some cool stuff with it. But the front end is more kind of what I thought we would talk about today, because there is some pretty cool stuff in there. Yes, I don't.
Well, you're driving. So what do you want me to do?
So let's bring up the site for a second.
Okay.
So just like reel off the top. So this is basically, you can just go here and see the live time on Mars, which is just fun off the top. The one at the top there is like it's kind of like MTC is like Mars UTC, if you will, right? Like it's like just the Greenwich Mean Time of Mars, if there is one. And then I put all the missions down there, and you can see what sol they're on, their live local time, their coordinates, and a little picture there so you can identify them. And then the really fun part is this birthday converter. So there's like a little time converter. You can put in a date, and you can find out when your Mars birthday is. So if you put in like any date in there, for example.
I like that you have to give what time you were born.
Well, it can
first,
matter,
you
right?
need to call your parents and get a very specific time of day.
Get out your birth certificate.
All right, somebody born on December 7th, 2006. At 4:15 p.m. to get very specific with you.
So what does it say? I can't quite read it on the,
you want me to zoom? Here, I'll zoom.
Hey, there we go. 7 Martian years old. So it measures how old you are, tells you when you were born on Mars, and then it tells you when you're, look at this, December 24th, 2020. That birthday's coming up.
Oh, it's real soon.
Yeah. So that would be like when you turn 8 Mars years old, right? So this is really fun. And then you can put your email address in there, and it'll send you an email on your birthday, so you don't have to remember when it is, which is it's fun.
Can you remind us when they decided Mars time starts? Like, what is the year zero?
Well, this is like the whole thing behind this. So like there's a whole learning experience behind like when I built this, because I thought I knew how Mars time worked. I'm like, oh yeah, the day's like, it's 24 hours and 40 minutes, 36 minutes, whatever. And the year's 660, whatever. I got it. I understand Mars time. But there's like so much stuff behind the scenes that I found was really interesting. So first of all, the year. So you see Mars year 36 at the top here. This is completely arbitrary, which I guess Earth time is
all
too,
time
right?
is,
We just kind of decided, but like when the years start, we just said, okay, well, here's the day. But basically, there was this scientist who was doing a paper on this dust storm that was happening in like 1956, I think was the dust storm, like a big global dust storm. And he published this paper.
Planet encircling dust event.
Yeah, a planet encircling dust event. Pardon my bias there. So he was like, listen, I'm trying to write this paper, and there's no way to like reference when this happens. And so he just like straight up said, I'm picking April 1955 as the start of Mars year 1, and we're going from there. And his reasoning was sound enough that the entire scientific community just fell in line, and that's the way it's been ever since.
What was the reasoning?
So it's like, it lined up so like that you want to line up the... Yeah,
was it like easy for their brains at the time because of mental math, and then it has now since drifted out of that?
No, I think it was a time when like the midnight on Mars UTC and midnight on Earth UTC lined up. And so you can have like a really clear delineation from when it starts. Like you can make a good timestamp on Earth that says this is Mars year 1. But it was also just, it was early enough for his dust storm
There were
study.
3 people thinking about this. Like you get to do that when you're...
when you're a pioneer, you got to do that kind of thing. So we did that. And so that was Mars year 1, and now we're at Mars year 36. That's how long ago it was. So completely arbitrary, absolutely.
I mean, I totally get that, because there are so many of those things that's like, I don't know, that's just how it is, and everything since then is based on that, so we just keep going with it, because changing it would be very disruptive to the stack of published literature to this point. So here's the other question, though. Is Mars the only place that has this so far?
You know what? I have not done all that research, but I'm
going to scope creep for you.
Yeah, I imagine that. So the only thing is the breadth of the amount of timekeeping we've built for Mars is more because we have surface missions, right? That's really important thing about it. And I think also just because Mars is so similar to Earth, like the year's longer, but at the end of the day, you've got roughly the same size of days. You've got seasons, the 4 seasons that go through it on a year. It's like really similar, and so having that kind of framework helps you understand it. But what would it mean for, I don't know, like
Venus
Uranus,
would be a good one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Venus would be totally messed up.
Venus would be a really good one.
The days are longer than the years, right? So it's like totally messed up. So I don't know. I think Mars has just got a lot of attention. It's got a lot of surface missions, and so people have put time into this. And that's actually what I based the library on. So there's like this. NASA maintains this like Mars clock that's written in Java, and they have this whole page that you can go and see the math they use. They open source the math.
Do you
it's
have
like
a
this
link?
giant.
I would like to see the page.
I can send it to you. It's pretty rad. So where should I put it?
So you had to take all this in and understand it to then write the library to. Because I think you were getting at this earlier. That not understand it like you're doing calculations. You're not doing
understanding
proofs.
this.
But I mean, you had to you were hinting at this earlier that you understood Mars time, but then you had to write code that understands Mars time. So you had to have all the edge cases figured out, and because everyone here on Earth understands time, but then they didn't know. Well, then you have to figure out leap years and leap months and leap weeks and leap seconds, and then you've got the time zones that are half hours off, and all the weird little ones that do daylight saving time, the one that don't. It gets pretty long in terms of figuring out all the edge cases. Is Mars? And they have similar rabbit holes to fall down, or is it more standardized?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this thing here is all the math, and basically what I did is I just converted this math into JavaScript. That was the job. So it just tells you how to get there, and it's seriously there's 4 sections, and each section has 6 or 8 steps to get to all the different pieces, and so it's pretty wild how they do it. They basically you convert over to Julian time, you get off the Gregorian calendar and onto a Julian calendar, and then you find this this known Julian date, and then you convert the second, you convert to seconds basically, because that's your standard time unit, and then you redo the math backwards to go to Mars. But it gets totally wild because they factor in 2 things you have to factor in that are really crazy. Is you have to factor in Earth seconds when you're Earth leap seconds when you're converting these things, which are completely arbitrary. There's no pattern to that. They just throw in a leap second when they realize it's getting off course, right?
It's like adding another sugar packet under your table at the restaurant. You're like,
exactly.
Wobbling a little. We need another one.
Yeah, and so it's totally wild to try and put that in. It ended up being just this big mapping table that I had to make. That's if you're past this time, then this is how many leap seconds you have. And they even they only started doing it recently, and they had to catch up. So the first time that we put in leap seconds was 10 seconds. Boom, it all hit at once to make up for all the missed time. And then a new one came out every once in a while. And sometimes they do it on January 1st, and sometimes they do it on July 1st, and oh god, it was awful. So that was the first thing. But I think the even wilder one is they actually factor in known large perturbations in the orbit. And so like every once in a while, like Mars and Jupiter and Saturn kind of line up, and it just sort of like jostles it a little bit, and then the orbit changes, and they have to factor that in. So there's like another table in the code that's like, I think the last 6 well-known oscillations in the orbit that were, perturbed by some large gravitational body. And you have to put that in there as well.
There you go.
Yeah, there's the
perturbers is an amazing. Determined perturbers.
Determined perturbers. And so they give you like these like, I don't know what these
That's
things
hilarious.
are. I put them in there. I know how to.
Here's 7 magic numbers.
Mm-hmm. So that was pretty crazy.
There was people noticed. Kyle on YouTube noticed that it mentions you have to get to the Julian calendar as part of this.
Yeah.
What's up with that? What's going on there?
So that's one of those times where I'm going to say I don't really understand. So they sort of explain it here, and I've read it 1,000 times, and I don't quite get it. But they run off the Julian. There's like this J2000 epoch thing that I don't quite get. But they switched over to that just for simplicity, I guess. I don't know. I think it's not like closer to what we use today, but I think that calendar was simpler, and it might make it easier to convert. It might make the math easier, is my best kind of understanding of it. But that would be a good thing to ask an actual expert on this.
If only we had guest booking spots available for any calendar experts out there.
If you're a Mars time expert, get over here.
I was late on the cut to the full frame.
Too slow, producer boy. Yeah.
If you're a perturber,
so that's the
we would like to determine you. It's a shame we won't have titles for Happy Hour. We've got some good ones already.
So this is the math. And then I think, so the other thing that you kind of mentioned, like, everyone understands Earth time. I don't think I understood Earth time. Because there is like some crazy, I was looking at some of the other time apps, and they're like, okay, if you want to know what time it is on Mars, do this, and it can give you the local true solar time and the local mean solar time. And then I was like, wait, there's 2 times? Like, why is there 2 times? And so I like started unpacking this rabbit hole, and it all comes down to this concept of like solar days versus sidereal days. Do you know the difference of these?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
One is the difference between where the sun is at the same point in the sky, and the other is the difference of where the point in the sky that you're looking is pointing in the same direction in space.
Exactly, yeah. So basically, like, if you think of one day as a rotation of the Earth, that's actually what's called a solar day. That we use, that 24 hours is a solar day. One actual 360-degree rotation of the Earth is 23 hours and 56 minutes. That's a sidereal day. But because the Earth moves in orbit around the sun, here you go. It moves like 1 degree per day. So now the sun's in a different spot. So it has to rotate for another 4 minutes to point with the sun in the same spot. So the difference between these 2 things like drives this whole other chain of like events, because then you go to a mean solar day versus a true solar day. And so I always have to think very carefully when I explain this, because it's like kind of wild. But basically, because the Earth's orbit, and any Mars too, even more so, the orbit's elliptical. And so that extra 4 minutes, that extra 1 degree that Earth does every day, it's not exactly 1 degree every time. It varies a little bit, because when you're going faster in your perihelion, it's faster.
You've got more time to spin before you're.
So you have like this true solar day, and then you have a mean solar day, where they just take all of the different days throughout the year,
average it to make math easier, basically.
Yeah, and then they come up with this thing called a fictitious mean sun. It's like, this is where the sun would be if the true solar day was the same all year round.
Perfectly
and it's always like
orbit,
a little bit off, yeah. And so you're like, oh my god! So now you got, sidereal versus solar day, and then mean solar day versus true solar day, and then you get to the times, and that's exactly where that happens, right? So true solar time is like what a sundial would tell you, because it just uses the actual sun. But mean solar time does that mean average of all the days and figures out when
for the non-circularness.
Because it would suck if every day had a different amount of time throughout the year. I'd be really that'd make programming dates even
if you
worse.
hate daylight savings time, boy, do we have something to fill you in on what could be possible.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all the crazy math for so I didn't know any of that when I did this, and that was like a pretty cool sort of thing that we unpacked when I did this. But yeah, it's pretty wild, man.
So have you thought, number one, we had some people asking about if there are time zones on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Have we developed time zones?
So it's a great question, and on the site I do this whole little like learning section to try and uncover this.
I just scrolled down there, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And the real answer is no, there aren't time zones, because time zones are like arbitrary, right? So, but this is kind of cool because if you think about it, as your longitude changes, the time of day technically changes, right? That's why we have time zones. But you wouldn't want to have like an infinite amount of time zones. So if I walk 10 feet to the west, I'm in a different time, right? That wouldn't be very convenient for anybody. So we sort of compromise by having 24.
I mean, there is a spot in which you could walk 10 feet to the west and be in a different time.
Yeah,
there are many of those spots on Earth. So yeah, it's just we've just made less of them.
Yeah.
So it's
so
less inconvenient.
We've reduced the resolution of our time zones for convenience. But we don't have we don't have cities or countries that need to work together and make that convenient on Mars. So there are no time zones, and they actually measure time down to the longitude. So if you scroll up, this is really interesting. If you scroll up to Perseverance and Ingenuity, so you'd think that they are in the same spot.
Oh yeah, it's 1 second off at the moment.
They're about 1 second off because they're actually 1 second longitudinally apart. Now, that being said, so just as a caveat to that, I in no way would I imagine that JPL actually has different time clocks for Ingenuity and Perseverance. I'm pretty sure Ingenuity just runs off Perseverance's clock, but the local time where Ingenuity is different than the local time where Perseverance is. So that's pretty wild, right?
That's a fun fact. Like, hey, we built a helicopter that flew so far away that we ended up in a different time zone. It's an accurate statement.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
how often do you update these locations? Is this when you do our Red Planet review?
So for Jurong, I'm just guessing because they don't
Yeah.
publish anything. So
good luck with that. When Andrew Jones tweets, then you update this.
Yeah, when a new map comes out, I literally load it up into JMars to like the highest resolution I can and hover my cursor where it is, and then look at and I put that in and I update it manually. Insight's stationary, so I don't need to update that one. But the other three, so Perseverance, Curiosity, Ingenuity, actually have data feeds through JPL. So this updates automatically when you load the site. It pings JPL and gets the current coordinates. Yeah, so that's pretty rad that we're able to do that. But you need to have the longitude in order to calculate your local time. So I had to build that in the library and then plug it in here. So it's pretty fun.
I noticed you don't have archival missions. Is that because it makes you too sad to think about Opportunity, or?
Maybe I should do that as a feature update, right? Just add.
You should add all the ones that are out there. Yeah.
Final resting place time zone.
I like it. I mean, because I think that would be helpful for me sometimes to look at. Like, I don't know. It's cool to know the relative time on the surface, right? That like, yeah, you might want to add. If you're taking feature requests in Off-Nominal Happy Hour, the like time of death would be cool, because then you could see as Curiosity gets close to one of the missions or whatever it is, right? In the future, when one of these other ones peters out, we can say, oh, look at how far it went compared to these other missions out there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got Roxanne in the chat here. Roxy's talking about all the human-made objects, functional or non-functional. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go through and find all the like ballast weights that Curiosity dumped.
Yep, you and Jonathan McDowell finishing these lists.
I'm gonna have the Jonathan McDowell of this stupid app.
The plate that fell off of Perseverance to allow Ingenuity out. Right, there's that like bottom sheath.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll make a GitHub issue, guys. I'll do it. What else? Okay, here's another rad one. So Mars days, they're roughly 24 hours and like 36 minutes, a little bit longer than Earth. The clocks don't actually use that. So for convenience, the clocks just spread 24 hours over the 24 hours and 36 minutes. And so that, I mean, the convenience being
mean Earth time.
5 o'clock means 5 o'clock, right? You know, it's like as a percentage of the day. So if you watch the actual clock, like if you're really bored and you stare at them for a while, every like once in a while it like skips a second to make up for it. It's pretty crazy.
We'll just leave this here so everyone can do that while we're chatting.
Yeah, everyone can do that while they're chatting. Oh, there, Ingenuity just skipped one, so that's how fast it took. So that one blew my mind, and I was stuck on that for a while, and I was like, because I built the whole thing and I proofed it all, and it was like all lining up with all the things. And then at one point I was watching it and it was like 23:58, 23:59, and I was like, oh, I'm going to see the 24:02 or whatever, right? And it just toggled over, and I was like, oh no, I built it wrong. I screwed it up, right? I was so confused. But yeah, so that's how they do it, which is really interesting.
Now here's a question.
Yeah.
Remind me the year again at which we determined what Mars time was. It was what year was that you said earlier?
1955 April is year.
Sorry, when was that decided on?
Well, he wrote the paper like the next year. Well, maybe not the next year. He was studying a storm in 1956, I think.
Oh, it was literally right then. Okay. I think I blacked out earlier while you were explaining this.
I don't know when the paper came out though, but the storm was.
But it wasn't the 70s when we were landing stuff on Mars. It was like it predated us ever even thinking about sending stuff to Mars. Well, not ever thinking about it. People think about that since the beginning of time, per your intro. But I find it interesting that Mars gets this treatment, but we have hardware at a lot of places in the solar system, and we don't expend the effort, right? Like, I wonder if
you don't have landers though, right?
I understand that, but I also think a big part of it is like everyone thinks about humans going to Mars. Yeah. So in a world in which there's a budding movement to get someone somewhere else, then we would be motivated to make some time calculations. But right now it's like Mars, we'll figure that one out because that's like you said, close enough analog. We can picture us being there. But all these other ones, and what my essential point is, until we determine time, we're like not close to sending humans to that place. That's the minimum. That's the canary in the coal mine for when we're finally thinking about going somewhere else.
Yeah, and what's really interesting too is that like in doing this, I kind of came to realize there are two parts to time, right? There is like a time that's determined by the natural order. And so a good example is on the site, we track something called solar longitude, which is literally just like a measure of how far around the sun you are. And so solar longitude 0 is the vernal equinox, right? It's the first day of spring. And then, 90 degrees would be the first day of summer, 180 is the first day of fall. Yeah, so that's a thing that's determined by the natural order. It's a measure of seasons, right? It's literally a numerical measure of the season. So if it's, 2:10, you're deep into fall in the northern hemisphere. So that is like a thing that you do when you're studying it, because when you do science, you need to know the season. Okay, well, there's more sun this time of year, and that factors into whatever geological process I'm studying. What we don't have though on Mars is all the like human convenience parts. So we talked about time zones, that's one of them, but weeks and months, those are just arbitrary divisions of time to help us manage our life, right? Like, a work week, 7 days, great. So 5 + 2 and the weekend, that's like a thing we need just for our lives. But we don't need that on Mars. So there are no weeks and there are no months. That's probably going to be the real key measure of like whether we're going to have a civilization on another world that lasts rather than just being like an outgrowth of Earth, right? Because for a while they're just going to work on Earth time for sure, right? But that's the interesting. And there's lots of, people love Mars, so there's like 1,000 proposals for Mars calendars out there, but
totally.
None of them are actually in use, right? So yeah, it's wow. There's like time is such a thing, man. It's like such a cool. I'm really glad I did this just for the learning experience, even if
and you were getting like you were just getting so existential about like there is I don't even know how you just phrased it, but you were like there is time as a natural order of things, and then there's time as we make it, and it's like shit, that's pretty right, and you see all those studies about or was it the people that like they went into the cave last year or whatever, and they wanted to see how it was to spend 40 days in the cave or whatever, and there's those studies about how people adjust their timing when not exposed to society and the Earth and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting when we get there to see if any of that comes through. Where was it like you drifted like 20-hour days? What was do you remember the study I'm talking about?
Oh,
where people are more likely to drift.
It was longer days. It was like 26,
it's stretched.
27.
Maybe it was like 20 hours
'cause...
awake, 10 hours of sleep or something. Like it drifted that direction, I guess, but curious to find out if that stuff actually takes hold, you know?
Yeah, they went away from the sun. They were in like a cave environment. They had no light and they didn't have clocks, so they just kind of had to sleep and wake up naturally and do their day. And then they told them to count how many days they thought, and then they compared everyone's after like a month. It was wild.
Our idea for that was to prank them and bring them out in like 3 days and be like, yeah, that was it. That was 40 days. And they were in there for a long weekend, and it's like, that's pretty mean, but also they just got 37 days of their life back. Like, that's a pretty great prank, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting about Mars, though. So, okay, here's another one. Per that, if we're thinking about us fitting Mars into our life, I think there's less difference or there's less intensity of sunlight out at Mars, right? You're going to experience how bright the sun is differently for a variety of factors. Number one, distance. Number two, the atmosphere. Do you think that is going to matter in terms of how days are planned? Because even when you think on Earth, right, in hotter environments, a lot of shit closes down in the middle of the day when everything's really hot and you can't do anything. So people drift towards like the beginning and end of days, whereas in colder environments, you're drifting towards the middle of the day. So even on Earth, we adjust based on heat and light and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But what is like the maximum brightness on Mars? What is the equivalent on Earth? Do you know this calculation?
Yeah, but hang on though. So is it brightness or is it temperature, right?
Well, I'm saying both matter. But I'm just curious. I'm playing here because you're not going to be exposed to the temperature at Mars for a while until like you get pretty down the terraforming rabbit hole. So light is the one that you're left with. But I'm saying if it's not that intense of light, if it's still pretty dim, you're not as dependent on that constant schedule of light. If it's not really doing that much for you and you can't go outside to get like, vitamin D directly on your arms,
Right. Well, because so Mars is 1.5 times as far from the sun as Earth. So if you follow 1/n², it's like 1/2.25 intensity, right? So like roughly 45% of the intensity of Earth for brightness, right? Did I do that math right? 1.5
Probably.
times
Good enough for happy hour.
Good enough for happy hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be significantly less bright during the day. But I don't know if it like the spread of it, like it's going to be brighter at midday and dark at midnight. Like it's not different, right?
Right.
So I don't know if
I guess I'm wondering, as an example, the days where it's super cloudy and it feels like morning all day. Are you just going to feel like that all the time? You know what I mean? Because our triggers are for brighter light than that. Maybe,
yeah.
Yeah. Heavy stuff.
These are the kind of existential questions that we're going to unpack here on.
Honestly, this is channeling the happy hour experience. Because if you and I were at a happy hour right now, this is exactly what we would be doing. So this is very realistic.
Oh man. Yeah, it is. It's true. Yeah. Cool. But yeah, so that's Mars time. It was a super fun project, and I learned a ton of stuff, and I hope everyone enjoys the site. I'm gonna leave it up for a while, and
for a while till your account runs out of money in it.
Yeah, until the
we are gonna have to put this in the Off-Nominal Family Trust to make sure that this runs when we are both gone. We have to get into legacy planning at some point for Mars time and offnom.com.
Well, it is automated as long as someone pays the bills. So.
That's the key right there.
Yeah.
Do you have other space-related projects like this in mind, or was this purely utilitarian, fun project that you had a good idea for? Is this your downlink, is what I'm wondering?
Hey, don't knock downlink. That's a fun app. I don't have a good one. I have a few like that I'm noodling, but I don't have a good one that's like rock solid yet.
Titan time?
Titan time. Yeah, no, not Titan time. I don't know anything about Titan. It's cold, I think. But yeah, but doing things like this is really fun for me. It's like I think it's a nice way. It fits sort of my way of expressing space concepts that I enjoy and teaching it, because I love teaching, which is why I do the whole podcast, the We Martians podcast at all. And so I think it's a good way for me to express cool ideas using a medium that I love and topics that I love. So I imagine you will see more things like this. I just don't know what they are yet.
You haven't determined the need for them yet, so.
No, not yet.
Well, if we're tapped out of time, should we do our current events shooting shit? That's the new segment I've just developed.
Shooting the shit.
Shooting the shit on current events. I noticed that I was prepping for the show and missed that NASA announced that they've selected Orbital Reef as their commercial.
Yeah, it like just landed.
Was that the only one? Or was it just one?
No, all three. So
oh, they did all three. Okay, I only scrolled down a little bit.
And Northrop.
They mailed it in. Yeah.
It was the dev contact.
Here's a couple bucks.
Money, right?
Yeah. This was the human landing system like previous round awards where they were like, here's some money, draw some more stuff. We'll talk later once we've talked to Congress, and then we'll have our people talk to your people.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the commercial cargo one when what was that old company like Kistler Aerospace or something when they got money. It's like that.
Wow. They were legit. They were a legit award. Yeah, they were a legit award. It just didn't pan out.
No, it did not.
Yeah, that was more legit. At least in that time, that was like a program that NASA had been sorting through the political aspects of. At this point, NASA has just kept asking for money for commercial LEO, and it just keeps getting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a real situation. It's a real situation. How do you get? Okay. Right now in Congress, you just say like China's doing scary stuff, this, that, or the other thing, hypersonic, bada bing, bada boom. Here's some money not here's some money because we didn't do the NDAA this year. That's a whole different topic. But like, here's some money, do hypersonic stuff because China's bad and they're working on it, so we should work on it too. How do you do that for Russia's trying to destroy the space station every 5 minutes? We need an alternative. Is that a similar path where Russia gets so big and bad and saber rattly that all of a sudden money comes out of Congress? I kind of doubt it. Like that's not a feasible strategy here in the way that it is for the military saber rattling about Chinese hypersonic missiles.
Yeah, and ISS, like we don't talk about it as much, but ISS is like embroiled in all the like congressional district hogging of jobs, right? Just as much as SLS is probably. The bill is slightly lower, but not that much.
That much lower, yeah.
And so like I think
Boeing's prime contract is like just under $1 billion a year.
No,
for
it's
the
more
ISS,
than that, isn't it?
But the prime contract for running the ISS is less than $1 billion, and then everything else goes on top of that too. Transportation, supplies.
It's like 2.5 for the whole operation.
I think it's like three something. Yeah.
Another 1.5 for the flights, like cargo and crew flights, right?
Just manifesting.
So it's like it's a lot of money, and any effort to promote a different space station is going to come at the expense of that somehow, right? So that's Bill Nelson's tough job.
There is no way at this point that the space station makes it until there's like a viable alternative, in my view. We are going to have some sort of like the space station gap that everyone, which I'm not that scared of personally, because I think like number one, I'm not running a company dependent on space stations existing, so I'm not terrified of it. I would be if I was running one of those companies, but I just don't. We've never done the let's not have a gap thing. Oh, let's not have a gap. We're going to do Skylab up until shuttle's ready. Whoops. Yeah. Okay, let's not have a gap. We're going to do commercial crew right after.
Constellation.
Oh, no. Okay, shit. Like, we've never done let's not have a gap. We've never stuck the landing. So why would we now when there's less motivation on this particular topic than we've ever done?
And imagine a world where Artemis and Gateway persist. is it really a gap if ISS shuts down, but we've got astronauts on Gateway and we're making moon landings to the rest of this decade, and then in 2032 we fire up a new commercial space? Like, is that really a gap?
Right. And that's important to note that, right? The only people that are saying let's not have a space station gap are Jeffrey Mamber's out there promoting his space station, right? It's people that are working on commercial space stations. So is the astronaut office, like, their worry is going to be getting flight time and getting actual flight reps. But if you're right, if these others progress faster and they actually do have flights, even to lunar orbit, there wouldn't be as many slots, but it would actually be more slots than we had in the time when it was just Soyuz going to the space station.
Yeah.
So,
and if you imagine, like, if you look on, here's a good clue. We look on Monday because NASA's announcing a new astronaut group, and if we see a lot of geologists and people that would be studying the moon in there, might be a good clue.
Do you think there will be any TikTokers, influencers?
Any TikTokers? Yeah. Hey, maybe.
I noticed Japan dropped the requirements for highly specialized degrees.
Yeah. They used to have like a natural science degree requirement or something. So I
think that's so Maezawa can be an astronaut.
Yeah. So that would be actually, it's a good question. It'd be really interesting. I don't think NASA's there yet, but it'll be really interesting one day when they put an astronaut in their core that is like really non-traditional like that maybe already has a media presence, whether it's like a TikToker or a YouTuber or like, someone like Zion Proctor or people who have a persona and have like a following already. That will be really interesting. It feels like a very natural outcome for the 2021 world that we live in, but I don't know. I mean, NASA's always very conservative, right?
Yeah, I mean, NASA definitely. Someone else will do that first, but also, why not? You're like that. If NASA always talks about how much their job is like engaging the public and building interest in science. So if you're talking that talk, walk the walk, and do someone who's doing that.
But they're also talking the talk of NASA astronauts are the best. They go through the most intense training. They're the most
that's the other part
most
of it,
intelligent,
for sure.
most accomplished, most qualified people that have ever existed in the history of all humankind, right?
But only in these fields. Like, are you a geologist? Are you an electrical engineer? Are you like a pilot?
Think of the flack they'd get if they had a YouTuber on Monday's class. Like, oh my goodness, like they would just never hear the end of it.
Here's what I'm gonna say. 2021 is too early to do that, which is exactly why they should. Like, that's why they should do it now, because it is too early. But I'm just saying, like, we picked 4 fields in the 50s or 60s that were like, we're gonna have the best of these fields, and that's because that's what we need today in an astronaut. And that's true, but communications is a gigantic part of it. Look at how much astronauts do when they're both on space station, when they get back from space station. They're doing all these tours, they're writing books. They all retire and become YouTubers.
Yeah, and to
so
add to your
why
point,
not have one that's active?
All the most memorable astronauts, the ones that people love the most, were often very good communicators, right?
Hadfield is a worldwide sensation because of it.
Hasn't flown to space in 8 years and still gets more coverage than anyone flying right now, right? So.
I mean, they are communicators. They send to the space station a photographic supply that John Krause would drool over. Like, if you look in Cupola, all of the lenses strapped in there. Have you ever looked at like the images?
I have.
I should dig out that book that you got me, because you probably see them all in there. But like, they don't do that because they do that for a variety of reasons. But one is like, people really like to see pictures from space because that's good communication. It gets people interested. So I think Japan's got it totally right. Like, the limitation on we are only accepting these couple of fields is ridiculous. Now, this all sounds like just plain lobbying for you and I to be astronauts at NASA and Canadian Space Agency, but maybe that's true. But I mean, it is kind of silly at this point.
Yeah, well, and it's a whole cultural thing for them, right? That's going to be really challenging, and because like, if you change who you're sending to space, you kind of necessarily are changing what you want to do in space, right? So if you are sending aerospace engineers and geologists and biologists, it's because you want to do those things in space. But
we're gonna need
NASA's
a welder.
Yes, we are. But do we need it yet? I don't know, right? And so NASA would have to have that conversation, like, oh no, we're sending a welder because there's a bunch of welding we have to do up there or whatever. Right?
Well, we're sending a communications specialist because all we do is communications. You know, like that's more defensible right now than a welder. That would be way more controversial to select somebody who's a TikTok star, and it would be way more useful than selecting a welder right now.
Is there is like the NASA charter, does it include a communication outreach component? I can't remember now.
I wouldn't be shocked. I should look that up again. You want me to Google it? I have the internet right here.
Because it's supposed to, because the charter is all about like creating an industrial base, high-tech jobs,
promoting commercial use, the
geopolitical part is in the charter, right? Using space as a peaceful way to make the world better, etc., right? So I wonder if communication outreach is in there.
Well, I have the whole 1958 Space Act up.
There's like, it should be easy. There's like
it's
a
pretty long
section in there.
Yeah, I gotta find that. Is the word?
You gotta look at the. So you gotta not look at the actual document and just go to Wikipedia because it's really.
Okay.
So expansion of human knowledge. Okay, so that's like science. Improvement of usefulness, blah, 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 space vehicles. Okay, so developing SLS. Yeah.
Is this what we're talking about? This bullet section?
Yeah, exactly. Development and operation of vehicles. Yeah. Long-range studies and potential benefits to be gained from space. Preserve the U.S. as a leader in space science. Yeah, you might be able to argue it under that one, right? Making available to agencies directly concerned, national defenses, military. Okay, that's the scary stuff.
I'm gonna say nah.
Cooperation with other nations.
Looks like nah.
Utilizing the engineering resources of the U.S. Yeah, see, so and then they added that last
communication
one,
does
right,
not even end up on this page anywhere. Education, not found.
In 2012, they added that one that was like maintaining the U.S. as like the leader of aerospace.
Yeah.
You could argue it under that, right? Because if you're teaching the public about
but it says only through research and technology development.
Yeah.
It would all be it would be 100% a like you're really shoehorning that in if that's true. I sort of feel like leaning on the charter of NASA is kind of weaselly, though.
Well, it is and it isn't, right? Like, you got to have some sort of guideline for what the heck NASA's for, right? Because everyone likes to like, project an idea on NASA as to like, well, NASA should be doing this, NASA should be, and it's like, oh, okay, but it is like a government agency. It's funded by taxpayers. It should have some sort of legal mandate that says this is what it's for, right? And if you want to change it, change it.
It's just, I think, not to get super political, but it depends on how much we stick to that. Like, because there's been some examples, as an example, in the pandemic, the eviction and rent moratorium was imposed by, I believe, the CDC.
Yeah.
So we get flexible when we need to in extreme circumstances. That's what I'm saying though, is that it happened and there was controversy around it, but it still happened. So if NASA decided to like say now we're in the game of communications, everyone would be like, yeah, no shit, like that's what you do. We can tell that, and nobody would care.
I don't know if you could argue that the lack of outreach from NASA is a pandemic level emergency.
No, right. But I think that's my point, is that even more so means it should be totally fine. I'm saying like NASA can slip this one by, just given our recent history here. That would not get taken to the courts. It would not be a social war or a culture war issue brought up, is that NASA hired a TikToker.
It just wouldn't get funded. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, what'd you think of the Neutron announcement this morning? Pretty cool looking rocket.
Pretty cool. It's kind of weird, but pretty cool. Yeah. I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to change again, because like it's too out there. It hasn't, and you have to start there, right? You start with the out there idea, and then as you go through R&D, it like converges on reality, like some compromise between reality and ambition, right? So I don't think it's done that yet. So don't don't bank on this being real, but like it's some pretty cool ideas in there. I'm kind of excited about it.
It's one of those situations where like you want to see some different stuff from different companies. Like if everything looked like Starship forever, you know, because Terran R, the relativity one, is like mini Starship. If everything looked like Starship for the next foreseeable future, it'd be really boring, you know. Yeah. And that's the funny catch-22 where like Starship is the only thing that will ever survive. Is like, wait, weren't you the same people that were like, it was bad when we had one thing that ruled the world? Yeah. Right. So you want some different stuff to appear.
Diversity of technology. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole like attached fairings, reusable first stage. I'm kind of digging it. I think it might be a while before this hits the skies, but I'm digging it, and I want this. It looks cool as fuck. It looks great.
Yeah. We got to figure out the
good logo.
And
excellent logo.
Oh yeah. And then the composite frame will be interesting too. I'm really curious to see how that works, but it's cool looking rocket. It's very sci-fi-esque. I like it.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Should we? We're pretty close here, Jake. We're wrapping up in a minute.
Yeah.
Should we talk about what we're working on? Anything that you want to talk about for next week? It's happening next week.
So I mean, happy hour will happen every week, everybody. We have not quite spun up to full velocity yet. So our ideal end state is we'll always be able to like tease what's coming next to here on this episode. We haven't quite got there yet, so just give us some time to spin up and get up to speed. But next week you can pop back in. We'll have some more stuff to talk about. And that's the big thing. I mean, this is the big project for this month so far, is getting happy hour up and running. We Martians is going to wind down for Christmas break after next week, I think. And that's
production meeting. Did we have
shirts?
Oh, shirts.
Yes. I put a shirt up right before this. So if you like the new happy hour logo, you can go to shop.wemartians.com and grab it. So
cash in. Boom.
That's up today. Yeah. To help pay for this fancy streaming software we have.
It's totally true. Did we officially confirm the Off Nominees episode? Is that a thing we can tease?
We have.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We can tease it. Yeah, it's coming next to the next main show, right? So on the main feed, you're going to see our most beloved episode of the year, I think now. I think people are really jazzed about Off Nominees. So the weirdest and wackiest space news of the year coming up. So
boy, is it going to be tough.
A couple weeks, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks. December 17th, I think, is when we're going to be doing that one.
Yeah.
We will have... Do you want to announce who the guest is?
Sure.
Interplanetary is coming back. Matt from Interplanetary is going to be back on the show. It's been a while. I'm very excited. I think we were on their show a couple years ago. We were on their show so long ago that I said, oh, this is going to be great this year. We're going to have the green run tests. And it was like 3 years later that actually happened.
Yeah.
So, that'll be fun. Matt will be with us. We're still working on our list of Off nominees because this is a doozy of a year.
It's a year, man. It's a year. And
some
not
real
even
competition.
Just like Russia stuff, but just like, oh man, there's some stuff. There's planetary stuff this year. I have planetary stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cannot wait to put our list together.
Yeah. So that's that. And we hope you guys like the time slot. Give us your feedback. We want to kind of hear what you think about this format. It's going to be a little different every week, but so does this mean like we're YouTubers now? Like, can we we were like kind of YouTubers before? But, are we YouTubers?
That's the idea. We're doing a YouTube dedicated show. There's been some controversy over that. But we're sticking to it. The main show is still going to be in the podcast feed. This will not. So come hang out with us. It's once a week. Throw it on the background some point during the week. It'll be worth it. Yeah.
And does that mean we get to do the YouTube stuff? Like, can I say like and subscribe, smash?
You are on that side of the video, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Smash that subscribe button, and we can become real.
One last time before we leave, I just want to mention again, offnom.com/happy hour. Send us the projects you would like to see on here. If you have people in mind that you would like us to hang out with, we have 4 slots per month to book, and we would like to talk to interesting people who you are interested in. So please do that. I enjoy this time slot, Jake. I feel like pretty well attended.
Yeah, I do too.
We got a good span of the time zones. It's fun to hang out. I'm very excited.
Europeans are jazzed, from what I can tell in the chat here, because we often do it at 2 a.m. for them, so they're very happy.
Yeah, they get like 1 or 2 matinees a year.
Yeah.
So.
But it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Hope to see more of you all the time. It's going to be great.
All right, everybody.
That
was Happy Hour. Cheers. Do we have a catchphrase to end this with? Do we just say cheers? Is that it?
Sure. I have no. I was waiting for some sort of inspiration there, and it didn't come. So cheers with the bottom of my metal ice cube glass.
Right, gotta go. Clink. Think. Wait, try to do it. No, try to do it in the.
Oh, jeez. Other way.
Think.
Clink. This is a good video. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.